The following story involves a house that is literally across the street from my best friend David. By the way, David's house is haunted. You can hear the story in Hell Freezer's channel. This story takes place in my city and neighborhood of Silver Spring, Maryland. Anyway, one day, David and I were building a patio for his backyard. I decided to take a break and headed out front. I sat on his rocking bench and lit my cigarette. That's when I noticed a disturbance coming from that house. As I stood up to take a closer look, I noticed an old Korean woman muttering hysterically in her foreign language while waving around something that was smoking. While she paced back and forth, she was trying to be comforted by two family members. I was immediately intrigued by whatever she was holding, but also wanted to see if I could help. I slowly approached the situation. As I got closer, I see the woman with tears in her eyes, holding what is mostly known as a sage smudge stick. A sage smudge stick has many purposes, and one is cleansing a space inhabited by evil spirits. I asked the other woman, her daughter, what was going on. She told me that this was her mother's home and that she couldn't stand the ghost in her house anymore. My mom thinks this place is haunted by an evil spirit. I asked if I can help with anything, but she declines. I wanted to keep asking questions, but this wasn't any of my business. David's neighbor knew a lot about our neighborhood, told me why the house was haunted too. He said that in 1989, a young man who lived there killed his parents and then himself. I found an old article on this story. It stated that a 27-year-old man, armed with a shotgun and a rifle, fatally shot his parents in their bed in their Wheaton home before killing himself. Back to me. His parents didn't live in that house, but he did. His sister was the one to find her dead brother. The police officer asked her whether her brother was mentally disturbed. She nodded yes. I suppose a troubled man can also be a troubled ghost. When I was 17 years old, a group of friends and I decided to check out a haunted place in our state of Maryland. It is known as Crybaby Bridge. As a side note, in the early 70s, my mom actually went to this same exact bridge when she was 17 too. It's pretty cool stuff, to be honest. Now, this bridge is also known as the famous Goatman Bridge. There claims to be a Goatman Bridge all over the country, but through some research, I discovered that this particular bridge was the original, at least for the legend of Crybaby. If you're ever in Maryland, go to Governor's Bridge Road in Bowie. There are some sketchy backwoods characters who live out there, so be very careful. Anyway, let me start this story from the beginning. There were 5 of us: Andy, Hector, Mary, Jessica, and of course myself. We hit the road all excited. Andy was blasting his new subwoofers he installed in his Cadillac, so we were in good spirits. Our GPS was directing us pretty well in the beginning, but once we hit that area of Bowie, it literally stopped and our phones were all disconnected. Jessica was filled with fear and grabbed my shoulder tight. I assured her and Mary, who was also scared, that this is how it is in the boonies. We were getting so close to the bridge, but didn't know which dirt road to take. It started getting dark. That's when we randomly came upon a trailer park spot. It wasn't really a trailer park community, but just 3 isolated shacks that were literally miles and miles away from civilization. I mean, fuck. You see that kind of shit in the movies and know that this would be a good time to leave, but we were so close to the bridge that we couldn't just turn around. Hector decided that we should ask for directions. When they saw our car stop on this dirt road next to their home, this woman and man got up from their rocking bench and walked slowly over to our window. The woman, who was maybe in her 70s, she was missing her 2 front teeth and was holding a Budweiser. And the man, who was maybe in his 30s, was a husky fellow with the most cliche backwoods outfit on. He had it all down to a T, with the dirty overalls, missing teeth, Confederate flag tattoo, shotgun by his side, and a lit marble Lucy hanging from his lip. They were very friendly, almost too friendly. They had already known why we're here. Apparently, a lot of people venture out to this bridge all the time. I asked if the rumors were true. The man with his slight southern twang said they used to hang goats from nooses back there. I asked about the Crybaby Bridge. He said he didn't believe in that one, but the woman did. She told me her version of its origin. Keep in mind that there are once again many variations of this legend's origin. The origin I was told was that legend states that in the early 20th century, a young woman was impregnated, but not married. In order to avoid judgment by family and peers, she drowned her baby in the river. Days later, with all of her guilt, she was trying to find her baby, which of course would have been impossible, so she too jumped off the bridge to her death. Time for the fun part. The urban legend rules were to first cut the car lights, get out, stand right in front of the bridge, and shout, "I have your baby." What's supposed to happen is first you'll hear the faint sound of a baby crying. As soon as you head back to the car and get in, the woman will appear with a soft but crying voice, repeating, "Where is my baby?" She then will erupt in anger and chase you down, only to disappear. So here we are. However, I did one thing a bit different, which I've now learned never to do again. Being the asshole that I was, instead of just saying "I have your baby," I said, "I have your baby, you stupid bitch. Come and get it." Yes, disrespectful. I know viewers will be mad, but I thought it might achieve more attention from the ghost. I was also trying to be funny and show off to the girl I was seeing. I was a dumb 17-year-old kid, so give me a break. Anyway, nothing happened, although I did feel a bit strange, but I figured it was all in my head. Now this is where it gets creepy. When I got home, I went downstairs to my computer to do more research on the bridge. I've only been home a couple of minutes when I hear a loud crash from upstairs. I thought it was my grandpa, who would occasionally drop something off his bed or even fall, so I rushed upstairs to his aid. I run down the hallway and reach my grandpa's room, and he was sound asleep. I look around his floor and nothing was on the ground. I shrugged and turned back around. That's when I see it. I must have missed it while I was running. I stand there shook and see that 3 framed pictures off both sides of the hallway walls had fallen off the wall and shattered on the wooden floor. As I look at each picture, I notice that every single photo was of me as a baby. One was even my mom holding me as an infant. I put 2 and 2 together and thought, oh shit, did this ghost follow me home? I must have really pissed her off. I thought this had to be a coincidence. I pick one broken picture up and notice that my dog is acting strange. She was staring at the front door. It was so intense. I was calling her, offered treats, and even tried to move her, but she wouldn't budge. This bugged me out because she always, and I mean always, loyally listened to me. I do believe animals can see things we can't, and my dog was aware of some sort of presence. I was starting to get really nervous, but kept my composure and remembered my dad telling me a story about a ghost experience of his. I'll make it quick. My dad said when he bought his first apartment, it was extremely cheap, almost too cheap because the last 2 tenants claimed it was haunted and wanted out. Apparently, a woman was stabbed to death in the apartment 8 months earlier, and now she's haunting it. My old man could give 2 shits about it. It was cheap, and he didn't believe in that stuff. His outlook changed the very first night he moved in. He said every night, around 11 p.m., he would hear what sounded like footsteps starting from his hallway and ending at his bed. He's a mechanical dude, so he thought it had to be time machinery within the walls. However, after a week, it clearly sounded like footsteps. So one night, when he heard that last step at the foot of his bed, he announces, "Look, I'm sorry, but I live here now. I don't mind that you're here either, but please stop making noises because it's scaring me." And just like that, it stopped. So I decided to do the same. While holding the broken frame, I apologized out loud that I'm sorry for saying those things. I don't have your baby, and I won't ever do it again. My dog then clawed the door. I opened it and closed it. She was back to normal, and I didn't have a sense of dread anymore. After that experience, I did research and found that if ghosts are angry enough, they can attach themselves to you. Then again, this all could have been a coincidence, but what I learned is that you don't disrespect the paranormal. This is a story of a young woman that got killed on the highway in the town near us. Some people say a gang of men attacked and murdered her when she got stuck on the highway late at night, and some say she was killed by a moving vehicle on the same highway when she got struck there at night. A guy who said he'd encountered her late at night was basically driving home at night on the same highway the lady got killed on. While he drove, he noticed a young woman hitchhiking, so he decided to give her a ride. He picked her up and asked her where she wanted to go, and she said she wanted to go home. She got into the car and he noticed the temperature dropped, so the man offered the lady his jacket. When he got to the young lady's home, she wanted to give him his jacket back, but he refused, saying he would pick it up the next morning since it was still a bit chilly. The next morning, the man went back to the house of the young woman, and he found an elderly woman at the house, and so he asked if he could fetch his jacket from the young woman, whose name was Sheila, which he later discovered. But the elderly lady refused and looked confused and told him that Sheila had died years ago and she used to live there. She told him where she was buried as she did not believe the old woman. He then got into the car and drove to the graveyard where Sheila was buried, and lo and behold, he found his jacket draped over the headstone of Sheila. One night, some friends and I were driving around, and we decided to check out an old bridge that was supposedly haunted. The story behind it is that a girl hung herself from the old one-lane bridge in the country. My best friend, Tommy, is into ghosts and believes heavily in them, and I decided to call him out. I was telling him that he was a coward and nothing would happen if we went there. As we turned down the foggy, beat-up one-lane road, I ridiculed him about the whole situation. As we came to the bridge, a black cat scurried across, and in my headlight, the green eyes of the cat glanced at us eerily. As we crossed the bridge, my friend told me that this was a bad sign. I again replied with sarcasm, and told him that must have been the ghost. We passed over the one-lane bridge so that we could turn around down the road and come back over the bridge facing the main road. My friend Tommy then convinced me to leave. We drove around a bit more, and I convinced him to go back with me. We went back, and like the first time, we crossed the bridge, turned around, and drove back towards the bridge. We then came to the bridge once again, and I decided to stop my vehicle on the bridge. I went to put the car into park and glanced into my rear-view mirror. When I did this, my jaw dropped. A fog-like figure shaped like a basketball head with a human body walked behind my car, turned towards me, and looked at me with the same green cat-like eyes. It looked upset, and I've believed in ghosts since. The anger in the cat's eyes shot fear down every limb in my body. I then hit the gas and flew out of there. Now, I'm a 3+0 student at the University of Findlay in Findlay, Ohio. I'm a baseball player at the university, and I'm about 6'2" and 200 plus pounds. I'm not scared easily, and I get chills whenever I think of this. I can't even tell the story to friends without coming to fear, and the image is ingrained in my mind. I feel like I have upset something, and I now believe in demons and ghosts and would like to learn more. On January 8th, I was hanging out at a local shopping complex with a couple of friends of mine. My friend, Mary, turns to me and begins telling me a story of a bridge just over the North Carolina and South Carolina state line called Catswoman Bridge. She was telling me that a number of years ago, a woman was driving home one night, and just before she was about to cross the bridge, a cat ran out in front of her. Trying to miss the animal, the woman swerved and wrecked her car in the woods just before the bridge. The next morning, local police found her car sitting, upside down, underneath the bridge. Upon investigation, police found the woman's body being beaten by a group of cats. My friend, Mary, continued to tell me that if you park your car in the center of the bridge and turn off the engine, you can hear the faint sounds of a vehicle crashing into trees at the end of the bridge. I'm in total disbelief. She continues to tell me that if I go to start my car to drive away, then my engine will not start unless it is pushed to the end of the bridge. I decide, okay, let's test this. We drive to the bridge, and I park my car in the center of the bridge. As I go to turn off my engine, my other friend, Robin, starts crying with fear and begs for us to leave. Not wanting to upset a close friend any further, I put the car in drive and began to drive away. As I drive away, there was a very thick fog that completely obscures my vision momentarily, and I decide that it's time to go home. However, the only way to go back home is to drive back over the bridge again. I turn my car around and begin to make my way over the bridge. The moment my front tires are on the bridge, my engine dies. Now, this could have not been a mechanical failure due to the fact that I was driving a 2005 Chevy Impala. I apply my brakes to prevent wrecking my vehicle, but my brakes wouldn't work until we rolled over to the other side of the bridge. After we get to the other side, I stop my car, put it in park, and restart my engine. Just as we are about to pull away, we all see bright lights that appear to be car headlights beaming upwards at an angle as if it were a car that had run off the side of the road. Scared out of my wits, I drove as fast as my car would get to get off that side of the road. When we got back to my house, we look over my car as soon as we get out. To our surprise, there were cats' paw prints all over my car, the hood, roof, and trunk. There were also streaks that looked like someone had tried grabbing the car with their hands. There were also complete handprints on my back window. None of these prints were there prior to us going to the bridge. I sent my car through a car wash almost an hour or so before we went to the bridge. I tried doing a search on the bridge and have found nothing. At first I was skeptical about the validity of the bridge, but after this, I will never drive over that bridge again. Thanks for reading. I was in the Navy at the time and stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. I was driving to Houston, Texas, on leave, and had been on the road all night and alone. My diet had consisted of just Coke, and it was coming on 2 to 3 a.m. I remember seeing something out of the corner of my eye, so when I turned to look, I was surprised to see what appeared to be a runaway slave sitting in my passenger seat. He had an unkempt fro and bib overalls with no shirt. He kept looking around frantically, as if someone was chasing him. Then he was gone. I then noticed something out of my other eye. When I turned, I noticed hovering outside my car was an older white man with a sunburned face and neck, wearing a khaki shirt and sporting a crew cut. Out of the two apparitions, him I did not like. Now things started getting interesting as he proceeded to yell or chant something at me through the window as I was traveling about 70 miles an hour. The next thing I knew, I was transfixed on my windshield as it starts to turn white, like at the beginning of a movie when the screen goes white. Oblivious to everything, the slave man starts yelling at me to look out. I snap to and am literally inches from plowing into the car in front of me. Then everyone was gone. A few minutes later, the white man shows up again, and everything starts over and ends the same way. Finally, the third time it happens, I couldn't snap out of it as quickly. I felt the car shaking and bopping about as the white man chanted and the slave man yelled at me to look out. When I did snap out of it, I was in the median between the two roads headed for a bridge. Of course, there was no bridge for people on the median, so I slammed on my brakes, took the keys out of the ignition, covered my head with my jacket, and prayed. I fell asleep for a couple of hours, and when I woke up, I drove home without incident. That was trip 1 of 2. I saw a corpse husband upload a video. I saw Mr. Nightmare in my life do that. But you have to subscribe to my channel because I humiliate myself by singing. And if I do that, I can close the video out by appreciating your viewership. I'm just kidding, guys. I did that on purpose. I actually sing really bad either way, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for attending this beautiful video production of mine that's really not as beautiful as you think it is. I just said that because I don't know what I'm talking about most of the time. Do I ever know? Probably not. The last time I made sense was when I was 12. Anyway, guys, go ahead and please share this video, like it, and of course comment. I like this driving themed video. Also, thanks to Jaylene and Dave for providing me some of the stories in this video. I really appreciate it, honestly, and if you guys ever want to send me any content, remember, the email's always below in the description, so check that out if you need to. Anyway, guys, I'm signing off, and if you got to the end of the video, please comment something like, I love chicken or something like that. No, I'm just kidding. Don't. I need to stop joking around. Alright, guys. Love you guys. Bye.